All right, we're on air. Happy Thursday, November 27th. Wait, it's October, isn't it? Yeah, October 27th. Almost missed a whole month. Yeah, it's been that kind of week. We are going to go ahead and go through today's agenda. We don't have any updates on here from the PMC, so we're just going to jump forward to infrastructure tasks. Jeff, I don't know if you want to start on Drush stuff, and then I can give an update on Pantheon, or if you want to try and do an update on Pantheon too. But let's start with Drush.
Yeah, I wrote a backdrop config export command just to facilitate getting your active config that you might change on your dev environment into a staging directory, which is Git version controlled, and then you can easily push that up to either your staging server or whether, and then you can deploy that through the UI. I plan on writing a config import command that will also do that via command line on Drush, which will work against the server or through Terminus on Pantheon. And that ties into, I think, what Jen is going to talk about with Backdrop and Pantheon.
Are those using the same commands as Drupal 8 Drush for config?
I tried to use the same commands, but I ran into namespacing problems again. So I went forward with them as BCEX and BCIM because they're going to be useful to me. So I don't want to block them on the namespacing issue, because there's a bunch of things that are blocked by that, like Drush enable, Drush disable, SQL sanitize. Quite a few are running into that problem. So for the time being, they are independent commands.
That's fine. So we've had this long-standing ticket where we want to make Backdrop available to anyone who goes to like Pantheon's install screen. And we thought the blocker on that was the fact that the dashboard wasn't working with Backdrop. And so Greg Anderson went and dug around in all of the code in the dashboard to figure out what was going on there. And apparently there's a whole bunch of like random if statements all over the dashboard code that's looking for, if upstream equals Drupal. And because Backdrop was included in like 4 of those places, but not all of those places, some massive cleanup happened when the Pantheon YAML went in and Backdrop was removed. And so he recommended that the solution is that we just say Backdrop is Drupal, and then that way it would continue to work the way it should for Drupal sites. But we have to make a couple of other changes, because as soon as Greg made that change to make Backdrop think it was Drupal, things like the location of our files directory stopped working. So we have the way that Pantheon handles the files directory is just a bunch of symlinks anyway. So the solution to that was just to create the directory where Pantheon looks for files, which is in site default files, and just add a symlink from where we look for files, which is in files, to the site default files. And when Pantheon puts in its symlink in anyway, it'll all just kind of hook up. And I've got that working on a test site that Greg and I were playing around with at BadCamp, but I need to create a pull request against the upstream so that it starts working for everyone else. Because right now, if anyone installs a new Backdrop site on Pantheon, it'll be broken. It'll tell you the files directory isn't writable. So we should fix that first. But there's a bunch of other stuff that we're working on fixing on Pantheon, like getting it working with Drush and using PHP 7, and maybe trying to move the configuration directory somewhere safer than in the files directory. But I don't think any of those things should block the make Pantheon not broken for new Backdrop installs. So I'm going to create a pull request for that separately, and then we can move forward on all of those other things too. And there's some like mystery around how we're actually going to handle writable config directories inside or outside of the web root that are somehow protected or not. But it looks like we have a lot of options. We just need to figure out which combination of them is going to make the best kind of best practices Backdrop on Pantheon setup. And then once we figure out what that is, we also need to figure out how much of that we can deploy to the current Backdrop Git repository for Pantheon, And if we need to write in some kind of upgrade path that would help people either running current versions of PHP that aren't PHP 7 or moving their current site route into a web subdirectory, like there is some risk of just pushing those changes out to those users. So we'll have to figure out like what the best solution is to get that upgrade done as well.
I could say for Drupal, they just don't force you to have a nested doc route. I think we should probably just go that route. And then there's a command. So if you opt into that by the pantheon.yaml file, then you can run a command against your existing site, which moves things in a way that makes Pantheon aware of it. You have to modify it a little bit for Backdrop, but I can do that and then post the recommended way to do that for a Backdrop site.
That would be great, but we should also figure out like where we're going to put config, and if we can put config inside the root, then I think it's not an issue to leave it inside a root by default. But if there's no safe way that we can do that, and we have to have config outside the root, then the default Backdrop install should have, it should have webs separate. So I think we.
Hey guys, I'm late to the call here, but did we discuss the other issue that is in the queue about moving active configuration into the database? Because I know Nate and who was the one who originally posted it, Nate?
I'll pull that up. We haven't gotten to that yet. Let's talk about that in the 1.6 release. Right now, they're just talking about Pantheon specifically.
Yeah,
and that'll be later.
Yeah, but this would solve that issue too.
Yeah, it's true. If that would be our default active config in the database, then it would work a lot like Drupal 8, where the database isn't versioned. So you version control the staging directory, and then the import command would import it into the database, and that's obviously writable by Backdrop. So we don't have to worry about the problem that we have with a version control staging and a non-version control active outside of the web root. So it is tied together in that sense.
I think the big picture is that we have a bunch of testing to do to figure out what we can and can't do on Pantheon. And then once we come up with like a recommended, this is what Backdrop should look like on Pantheon, then we need to figure out how to get people from where we are now to what that looks like, whether that's like put config in the database or move config outside the doc root or move it into a separate directory that's protected or whatever. That'll depend on what we're allowed to do. Right now, that's a little up in the air.
Well, I think that we don't want to mess with any existing sites. I mean, it seems like people can set it up however they want, and if someone has a Pantheon site that's working, we don't want to mess with it.
Right. The problem is all the Pantheon sites right now are not really safe.
Yeah.
Can I make a quick question, because I'm going to present in a couple of hours? Is the Pantheon thing broken currently?
Yes. If you try and install a new Backdrop site right now, it'll tell you that the files directory is not writable.
All right, not good news.
We might be able to have that fixed in a few hours. When is your session?
Like 4 hours from now.
Oh, that's totally fine.
You can switch it over to SFTP mode, and that'll get you a working site. But then obviously you lose Git awesomeness. And if you switch back to Git, it's all gone.
Yeah, I'm talking mainly to, or the target audience is non-coders, so I don't think they'll mind. It's just, I'm looking for a simply test me sort of like an alternative. Or by the way, can I just a quick question? Should I publicly? I always abuse the pull request sandboxes. Should I know that's possible, but do we endorse that as an alternative, like getting getting their own repository and just altering a README file, just adding a doc there will get them a sandbox? That's abusing. It's not a pull request, but it gets them a free sandbox.
Yeah, I don't know. I would recommend Pantheon as a free sandbox rather than the pull request queue, just because I know.
it will pollute the queue of pull requests. It will be like meaningless pull requests there. I know. That's why I was asking. But that's what I do sometimes. Sorry.
Well, it's okay for you to do whatever you want, but I would say if we get like 100 new people doing that, it might get a little messy.
Yeah, if they want to continue to play with things too, like say something useful comes out of it, if they have it on Pantheon, they can continue with that after the camp.
Yeah, and the fact that I might go through every now and then and do a pruning of the pull requests, and if they're using the sandboxes, sorry, they're going to go away. Yeah, Pantheon is definitely the recommended thing. Although, yeah, we really need to get that fixed. The Pantheon thing fixed. Was that because of the change Greg made to make it be into Drupal?
Yeah.
Remember how I said there's going to be differences and that things will break?
Yeah.
Happened a little sooner than.
Well, I mean, it happened right then, right? Which is why he was helping me work it out at Bad Camp. It was just a little crazy in terms of actually accomplishing anything at Bad Camp. I should not ever count on that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Are you guys confident you guys can fix that? I mean, could we ask him to put it back and then, set up a different thing that has Drupal as the, for testing? I mean, or do you think that we can get that fixed in the next hour or two?
I mean, it's just so you create a directory with a file in it, so Git won't delete it, and a symlink, and that's it.
Okay, well, here's hoping.
or make it SFTP. And then
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Just can I ask a favor? If this is actually resolved, can someone please PM me on Gitter or something so that I know what to tell people during the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So I even have not a pull request yet, but I have a branch where it's fixed. So I think it'll be a non-issue. We just need to test it and then deploy it. Theory, it's a non-issue. All right. Anything else about Pantheon or Drush we should talk about before moving on?
Nope, let's go.
Okay, so next on the list is backdropcms.org. I did manage to get the showcase nodes appropriately themed last week before Bad Camp. So if you have admin access and can find a showcase node and look at it, it's much prettier now. It's using Darius's design where there's like a special field for a pull quote, and all of the responsive sized images are kind of positioned with cute little CSS like tablets around them or browsers or whatever you need. So I think that that's great. But the number one thing I took away from all of the marketing people I talked about is that it doesn't really matter how many screenshots you have of websites. What people are going to care about when they go to the showcase section are the words that make it like a compelling story about like, this is why we chose Backdrop, not this is the modules my site is using. So I think it would be really great if we could do a review. We've got a good kind of handful of sites up there already, but I know at least on the ones that I created, like the words were kind of an afterthought. So I need to go back and give those a review and make sure that the story is coming through and not just the pictures, pictures were important for being able to theme it. So that's good. But I think in terms of getting the right message across to users, we need to go and put those words back in. So I'm going to plan on doing that today. And then the last step on getting that showcase site up is building the view for the landing page, like /showcase or whatever it's going to be. And we have a design for that already. We just need to build the view and then theme it. And then we should be good to go. So that is kind of probably ready to go in the next week or something. And I would love to see more sites in there too. Like I'll ping a couple of people that I know have launched Backdrop sites and see if we can get them to put stuff about that. But if any of you know anyone else that's working on Backdrop sites, or even if they're not live yet, to just kind of put stories up there as why, why Backdrop was decided on, that would be, I think, super useful to people who are coming to the site and wanting to know if this is real yet or not.
Yeah, can I ask one question there as well?
Yep.
Is this section 90% ready? Like, can we have it published? Or like for today, I'm having some statistics which include the number of downloads and the number of active sites, like our front page there. And I'm sure people are going to ask, like, do you have any examples? Do I just show them the admin version of it and say that it's not ready, or?
Yeah, we just don't have a view. I mean, I think I don't know how long it would take to build a view. Like, there's probably a way you could build a view that was just like a list of links to the nodes, and the nodes are themed, and then we could go back and make the view have all the fields and look pretty long term. I mean, even if there's no link in the menu until we get the view themed, I think that's probably fine. But yeah, I would say we could definitely have something.
Yeah. Alternatively, I'm just gonna log in as an admin and just show them what we have ready.
Yeah,
as
that would
nodes.
work too. All right. And then other things that are coming along really well for the website, the documentation section. I saw a ton of fantastic collaboration going on with people reviewing, inserting images, talking about ways that we could make it better. I know there's a bunch of stuff on my plate, like setting up color box in a way that editors can easily add color box pop-ups to like screenshots where things might be too small and they want to make them larger, or getting a diff module in there so that people can see what's been changed from version to version. But yeah, I think that so far it's looking really good. It's getting reorganized, and I think we are maybe days away from getting that link into the menu. So I just want to say thank you to Tom and Doc Wilmot and Gregory. Everyone who's worked on that has been doing a really great job. So it's totally fine that you don't have time. You've got other things going on right now, Gregory. But we have a great team of people working on it, so I think that's fabulous. Also, next on the list for the website is the forum, and I think we're so close to getting both documentation and the showcase up that we'll be able to move on with getting development of the forum done so people can come and talk about Backdrop in a nice, friendly place and use their Backdrop CMS.org user accounts for something. So that'll be great too. All right, let's move on and talk about Backdrop CMS itself.
All right. Wow, it's been 2 weeks since we had a meeting, since last week was BADCamp. And in the meantime, we have released Backdrop 151, which is fantastic. And so that's now been pushed out and addresses some of the out-of-box problems dealing with the drop-down menus not being on the homepage layout and things like that. Yeah, as noted in the meta issue 2267, that has the 151 version has been pushed out to Pantheon. Thanks, Jeff, for doing that. It's not noted yet. Has the Docker image been updated as well?
No, I got distracted.
Okay.
By Josh.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that would be great to get that updated soon. I know Wes mentioned that he'd like to do a demo of Calabox pushing and pulling up to Pantheon from Calabox, and so that's dependent on the Docker image. Of course, it's fine. I mean, you can just use the current version of Backdrop with Calabox, and that works fine.
Yeah, you can still update his Calabox site to 151.
Yeah, and that too.
But that's no excuse. I should still update the image.
Anyway, that's looking really good. Glad to have that pushed up to Pantheon. That updated to Pantheon was the first 1.5 version that was pushed up there. So that's kind of a big deal that existing sites now are getting upgraded to 1.5. We have an issue for 1.5.0 follow-ups at 22.26. And the big item there is that we still haven't published like a blog post saying that it was released. I mean, we've got the release notes, which is great. We have a stub on backdropcms.org, and I have some screenshots, but we haven't actually written out the text. I don't think that there's much to that, but yeah, it would be great to get that completed, and then a newsletter sent out as well.
that's also blocking the newsletter, because usually we just take the blog post and dump it into the newsletter. So Nate, I don't know if we want to stop saying you have screenshots unless you're actually going to put them into a blog post. And that way it would kind of unblock it for somebody else to write that.
Yeah, I'll put up, for real, I'll put up my screenshots, because I actually retook the screenshots for like the hero and everything after 151 came out, because it included a bunch of fixes. So I will put up those screenshots, but delegating the writing of the blog post would be fantastic. Although I know Gregory had volunteered for that at one point, but now he's at a conference. I mean that yeah. Anybody else want to volunteer for writing the blog post for the release? Is that, are we putting?
Everybody's jumping on it.
Because of the I might be able to do it tonight after the. I can't promise. It depends how big I am. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't have Jack's problems. So I might be able to do it. I can't promise though. It depends. It's been a really big week.
Okay, excellent. Okay, sounds good. I'll put up the screenshots and I'll send you the link to the unpublished page, just with the screenshots in them. Okay, on to important bug fixes. The important bug fix that we've got tagged right now is that when we released 151 or 150, it included basis with the hero block, but we didn't make the design match, or we didn't make the implementation match the design. In particular, the hero was supposed to be full bleed all the way edge to edge, but it is centered in the middle right now. So that issue is 2190. And Jen, Wes, and I discussed we've got now 4 approaches, I think, that are in there. All of which we're still not, oh wait, no, there is a template for the front page only. Okay. Well, anyway, of all of those implementations, the one that seems like it's least hacky and kind of a compromise on things is overriding the template for the single column layout to make it so that the home page gets the full bleed hero, but other layouts don't, basically. That way we don't have any hacks. It does add another template that is overridden in core by basis, but it's only one and not all 10 of the layouts. At least that's the current compromise on that.
Just future-wise, I don't know if this is a 160 thing. Is it the blocks that we are having issue with having them being full bleed? Like if we switch to having settings for regions that occupy only a single row and then have them be full bleed, would that be a solution?
So, Wes, you want to handle that?
The problem is doing it in core without overriding all the things, since we've already made a decision. The decision we made makes it hard to do full width things without causing issues on certain operating systems under certain circumstances that are actually a majority use case. It's like over 20% of people would see, a bad experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, but if that was a setting for regions, a setting that by default was as we have it now, but people could switch it.
Hey guys.
To having like full bleed regions instead.
Like that also seems like an intermediary step. Like I think that this hero image thing has sort of revealed a big weakness in our whole layout paradigm. Like I feel like the layout system we have is great for what like sort of designs have been like for websites that have a sidebar and stuff like that. But now pretty much every single site that I work on has a series of rows, all of which are full bleed and have a different background or borders or stuff like that. So I mean, I think that we need to figure out how we can support someone building a website that has pretty much like, every single layer goes full bleed and can be customizable.
And then we have some of that now, just not for every row. Like the header is full bleed and the content is full bleed and the footer is full bleed.
I think the region thing might be a good intermediary step, but then I think we might want to look, for maybe even like the next release, trying to figure out maybe what a version 2 of the layout system might look like, and whether we can do a layout builder where people can, instead of selecting full templates, select a series of rows, and then within each of those rows, specify a how many columns it has, like an arbitrary number of rows, which none of our, because right now our templates have a bunch of different rows, and you can maybe have like 5 different ones with different backgrounds. But then if you have a page with 10 different rows and backgrounds and stuff, it doesn't really support that. So I mean, I think that we should probably try to get some sort of solution in to fix the basis issue, but then I think we need to figure out have a serious discussion just on what layout's going to look like in the future, and how we can move in that direction.
We talked about this in the design call we have had, where I think the next thing I want to focus on is the layout builder. After I finish some basis tutorial documentation stuff, and then maybe also that and field UI stuff. So
I would like to mention that we be careful we're not throwing in solutions for edge cases, just because that's what we're working on. So I would love to see layout builder exist as a contrib project, and then we can check and see how many people are actually using it before we make the decision to put it in core. But it also leaves us a lot more flexibility to change things if we don't get it right the first time.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I also think that's going to be huge. That's something I loved about panels, even though I hated its markup and its performance implications. Yeah, the panel's flexible layout solution. So if we could figure out some way to do that in some way that was a little less janky, that would be fantastic.
Okay, sorry, I tried to change tabs and I closed the hang up. Okay, yeah, that's the status of the full bleed hero. Yeah, we already have multiple issues actually talking about layout builders and the way that they could potentially be built out. So yeah, I mean it would be great. Yes. The limitation we actually ran into right now is that when we put in the current layouts, we decided to have a single wrapper around all of the regions instead of individual wrappers around each region, and that just kind of came back and bit us basically. Oops, trying to avoid divitis, and then there you go. That's you need it. Okay, so let's talk about 1.6.
Sorry.
What's that?
We only need a minor case of divitis, not like 777 divitis. That's a whole other. Only a slight affliction.
Okay, so 1.5, as far as ongoing work goes, that's now just moved into bug fixes as usual. There's no real critical items. So as we address bugs, we'll continue to make improvements in 1.5. We'll get bug fix releases as those as those items are completed. 1.6, that's the next minor release. It's coming up in let's see, November, December, January, 3 months, 2.5 months actually. And so we've got a number of items that we have for 1.6 that we are trying to make happen. The first of which is reference module. And Mike, I'm glad that you joined so that you can give the update directly if you can.
Yeah, it for the most part is working. So go ahead and try it out on your sites. I did a bunch of work. We have the widgets working, or the widget working, the autocomplete widget. We have it displaying titles right now. Still working on getting, where did I leave? I was working on getting it to render entities having it render entities, like, you know, have it do a list of teasers and stuff. So I have to see if that'll working. We have half of the views integration working. Well, I mean, the basic fields are working fine in views. Half of the relationship, like right now, you can fetch the content that like if you have your base entities, you can fetch the content referenced by one of its reference fields. There's another, and we have to do the opposite, because there's also a relationship in most of the entity reference modules that do backwards, where you fetch, sorry, this is confusing, fetch things that are referencing the current node. So you can, like, you know, if you enter in like node 5, you can find all the other entities that are referencing that. So yeah, so that's supposed to be done, but we're getting very close on getting the basic stuff done. I still need help getting the testing done and just basically trying things out and letting me know what else needs to be done.
Great. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Yeah, I'd like to, hopefully I can help with the tests. I'm in the world of testing all the time these days. You have any idea of feature parity between node reference and user reference, how we're looking so far? If there's anything that is absent from those absent from our version that those modules include?
I'm not sure. I could use help reviewing that as well. I know that the different individual entity reference things had additional settings for their widgets. And I forget exactly what all those were. We sort of have a pared down set of options for the autocomplete results. We have it so you specify just an entity type, and then you can specify a particular bundle, or you can specify whether or not the node is published or not. So you can limit to just published nodes, you can limit to just a bundle, which should take care of like 90% of the use cases, which is kind of our goal for core. That we need to see if there's, you know, and yeah, so I mean, we're sort of like, I think there's like some little other additional options that are more entity specific, but in terms of having the general entity reference field, this seems like a good amount of functionality. The other thing that I eventually want to add, which I have not yet, is another, is that I think they have, is that, I forget which of the entity reference modules, there's so many I've looked at now, is customizing that more using a view, where you actually have views returning the possible you know, autocomplete results, where you can add any arbitrary additional parameters that you want.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Sounds to me like it's time for a branch and a PR, and that would make it easier for all of us here to test it, use it in sandboxes, make comments, start writing tests, that kind of stuff.
Okay. If you guys want to do that, it's kind of up to you at this point. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get a little bit more into it before we do that, just because then it would be a lot of different pull requests against the branch. Just
we can leave the contrib there, and you can continue to work there. And as we want new things from what you work on in contrib, we can merge those into the feature branch.
Yeah. Anyway, but I mean, it's, you know, not terribly hard to, you know, if you have a test site, just to install. You don't have a release for it though. Anyway, but yeah, we could do a branch if you guys want to do that.
Okay.
You have an opinion, Nate?
Well, I think Mike is doing more work, or the most work at the moment, and if his preference is to continue and contrib, then I think that, I mean, because once we start having work in multiple places, they become, you know, one of them gets left behind, kind of.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do, yeah, I mean, at the same time, I do want other people to help out with it. So if someone is really interested in helping out and has a preference on it, we could definitely take that into account. Right now, it's kind of nice having the separate issue queue just for the module, and that I feel like once if we do a feature branch and we have issues, it'd be harder to track issues against it because it'd be sort of lost amongst all the other issues for core. So, yeah, because we don't really have good tagging for different components within the larger site.
No. Okay. Well, when we are feeling that it's feature complete to the point that we're ready to start integrating with it, I do think that the feature branch is an excellent idea. And per our attempts at doing feature branches now, what we would do is we would actually give you like provisional commit access to core, and you would be allowed, you would be given commit access to the entire thing, but by policy you would just be allowed to commit to the branch for reference. So that way it'll streamline the review process, at least until we do the merge into the 1.x head branch.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Okay. Yeah, when that comes to pass, we'll do.
I'll get provisional commit access. That'll be, yeah. Then watch out. I just might go crazy.
When that comes to pass, we'll go through a little like tutorial.
I know how to commit stuff into that. Anyway.
Okay, let's keep moving through this. We're kind of dragging here. So 1.6, that's reference module would be fantastic. We need to make that happen. It's been one release delayed already. Other items that we've got that so far, all of these, not a lot of progress on them, but I'll run through them. Issue 1448 is add a media/file entity solution, and that issue has now been created or been converted into a meta. There are not sub-issues created yet, but it's been broken into 5 separate tasks. An interface to list and manage uploaded files, kind of step 1. A way to upload a file manually outside of file fields or WYSIWYG uploads, step 2. Different file types, step 3, fieldable file types, step 4, and step 5, a reusable file/media browser for CK Editor. So far, work has not commenced on that, but the first item, an interface to list and manage upload files, essentially means a menu callback and a view. So that's initial problem is actually really pretty straightforward. But we haven't had anyone take that on yet. If you're interested, post a comment to that issue, 1448. This item came up a long time ago, and now it is back in the front of everyone's minds, and that's entity view modes, adding the ability to specify different view modes other than full and teaser, and the other ones that are created by core, like search results. This ties in really well, actually, to the reference module. If we have reference module in core, additional view modes are also useful to have in core. So we're all in agreement about this would be a fantastic thing to add. There's some discussion happening in the issue about user interface right now, but no code yet. I would highly recommend people jump into that conversation. That issue is issue 315. 2 issues that are related to each other, both have to do with managing layouts, adding the ability to either manage blocks or regions in some kind of reusable fashion. There's 2 issues, issue 2245, that has to do with copying blocks or block instances, and issue 1886, which has to do with managing regions in a reusable fashion. So 2 approaches basically to the same problem, and those are both still in kind of brainstorm mode as well. add a system of page-less nodes. That's basically an issue that is all about how can we deal with entities or pieces of fieldable content that don't have pages. And I think, again, we've been talking ourselves in circles on this one for a long time. I think we need to start trying implementations and see how we feel about the cleanliness of them. That issue is issue 100. Oh, goodness. So many issues. Menus and breadcrumbs cleanup is issue 523. I don't actually know much about this one. Jen or Gregory, do you want to go on about this one?
Yeah, that's my issue. One of my issues there. It's on the user interface. There is sort of like the way that I see the breadcrumb is sort of like as a path to show the user where they are. So we have the breadcrumb with the links at the top. Then we have the title of the page, and then we have the secondary tabs. That order sort of like defines how, like sort of like a you are here path, how the user gets there. Sometimes the titles of the pages do not reflect what's actually on the page. They're misleading, or the order of the breadcrumb, the title, and the secondary tabs is the opposite, where the breadcrumb is underneath the secondary crumb. So as the user's eye moves on the page trying to figure out where they are, it sort of like seems backwards or odd. So I'll try to figure out a way to fix that.
Well, I think that there's another issue that's open that is basically make the page title a block, where right now it's kind of hard-coded into the templates, so you can't put anything above it. So
I think that's one of my issues, I guess. I mean, I started, I think either me or someone else, but and another related thing is like that there is a dream of separating the page title as what we see on the page from the title as in the meta title, what the users see on the browser tab. These might need to be separate because sometimes
that sounds like more like that sounds like a different issue, but
it is related to when a user has a lot of tabs open trying to navigate through the UI and do separate stuff. They need to know which tab. And if all the tabs say layouts, but there's different, like there's layout configuration and then block management, and then they don't know how to, it's a usability issue. I think I have screenshots there. Maybe I'm not using the right words now, but it is a bit confusing to the user when they have a lot of tabs, browser tabs open, saying the same thing. Sometimes it makes sense to have, as a tab browser title, a combination, like a combination of the title and the secondary tab where the user are at. This is a good example. Like you might be at the second or third secondary tab, and the browser title still displays the same title for each of these tasks, and you don't know where you're at.
I feel like this could be done easily in Contrib. Like I feel like there are like Drupal modules in Contrib that already do this. I'm not sure if it's Anyway, I'd say open up an issue and we could talk about it there if it's not already open.
Yeah, I posted an issue to Gitter. We actually have already had this discussion once. It's at 1191. So that issue's actually already been closed as, let's do it in Contrib. And right now the current status of it is let's put it in Contrib and see how frequently it's used. But yeah, if more discussion is needed, let's reopen the issue and continue there. On that particular items. It's actually different from the issue 796, which is more about the breadcrumb and showing a user where they're currently at on the page. Okay.
Related
This
to
is a different issue that you posted that I was. Oh, this issue has everything in it. This is one of those kitchen sink issues where you discuss like 10,000 different things. Okay.
All right, let's move on. So the next item, Mike, that you brought up earlier, and I put it in this list just to keep track of it, is that there's been a lot of excellent work done making it so that it would be possible to store configuration, the active configuration in the database instead of in the file system. And Sentai Digital has been doing an enormous amount of work there. Maybe, that would be a good choice for Pantheon in the future, like we mentioned earlier. But at this point, it's really about providing an option to do that. But the status of it right now is that even if that is added, and it probably will be, even if that is added, the default will still remain how it is today, that the active configuration will remain in files with the database simply as an option or an alternative.
Is it faster in the database?
Actually, we don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know. I think that it may actually end up being slower, but it really depends. Like if your database is remote, it definitely will be slower. If your database is local, who knows? Okay, and then lastly, improving the rich text editor, a meta issue that we've had ever since the rich text editor has been added. The configuration storage in the database is issue 2277. And then improving the rich text editor, a meta issue for general improvements to the rich text editor is issue 1087. Yeah, it says in the agenda here, more or less to be determined. Yeah. In the event 1.6 seems to be overly ambitious, which it is. Yeah, we may start paring down these features as we approach January. There's more issues than these mentioned, though. You can get all the complete list in GitHub issue tracker by checking the 1.6 milestone. Okay, that's it. That is it for the 1.6 release. We've got a community growth section here. Gregory, do you want to take it away?
So real quick, this is a 2-week recap because it didn't happen last week. So we have 321 total projects for Backdrop CMS, and that's +2 since last meeting. We have 384 total user accounts on backdropcms.org. That's +10 since last meeting. We have no change of the total backdrop contributors. That's 57. And we have a huge download increase, as always, for Backdrop CMS Core. That's 7,038. That's +241 since last meeting, and I'm sure that Badcamp has a lot to do with this.
Great, thanks. Let's see. Next on the agenda, we've got talking about a little bit about the Badcamp summit and do a little recap. Jen, would you be interested in taking on the recap?
Sure. So let's see, starting with the summit was on Thursday. I thought the summit went really well. We only had a few more people than we had last year, but the content was completely different, and I got really good feedback from all the people who were there saying that they really appreciated the format this year and the stories that they heard from people. In particular, Jack's talk, I heard people say they really liked. And Brian gave a little backstory. He's one of the people behind the bootfitters.com site. Gave a little backstory on his decision to go with Backdrop, which I thought was pretty compelling too. And I'd never heard that, even though I've been working with him for years. So that was really interesting to listen to, kind of the other side of it that I think sometimes developers don't hear, is the decision-making side of things, which was really great. So I was really impressed with that. We did have a little talk at the end of the day, we wanted to set aside an hour to talk about what we should do for Backdrop 2. And that got a little bit derailed. Instead of talking about what we should do for Backdrop 2, it started talking about like what Backdrop's priorities should be. And it was kind of interesting that the main takeaway was like stop coding and start promoting, which was not what I was expecting. I was expecting that whole hour to be like, what should we code next? But that's okay. I thought it was really productive. We got feedback from people I think we wouldn't have normally gotten feedback from. So that was, I don't know, a good experience, I think. And then the session that we had, the training session we had the next day, we actually had 2 people who came to the summit on Thursday who decided to drop in on the training on Friday, even though they weren't originally signed up, which I thought was really interesting. And the training went pretty well. We did our normal morning session of kind of following along site building. We had some people in the class who had never seen Backdrop before. We had some people that had some Drupal experience, some people with no Drupal experience. It was kind of a little bit all over the map in terms of what people's experience level was, which was always kind of interesting. So you're like, if you haven't seen this before, you don't understand that it's better than it was in Drupal. But if you have seen this before, it's the same as what you saw last time. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. But I thought it's also really great to get feedback from people who aren't super familiar with Drupal and get their first reactions of what it's like working with Backdrop. And I thought we got some pretty good positive reviews from them as well, which was great. In the afternoon, we had a little bit more coding style stuff. We got Wes to do his talk on doing a sub-theme and basis, which seemed to go over pretty well. We did a little compare, contrast code style between Drupal and Backdrop. We tried to do a live update, which I kind of garbled halfway through and didn't have a backup, but it worked out okay. I think the craziest thing was that we had one person who had a ton of questions about his own specific project, where he's like, I want to move to Backdrop, but I have these 10 questions that I need to have answered. So that was kind of fun, because it's like, you're really committed, but this answer is probably not going to apply to everyone else in the class. But it was great to be able to kind of say, well, let me answer in a way that maybe is relevant, and then let's talk later and we can kind of get into more of the details. But in general, I thought we had a class of people who were super interested. We had a couple of people who had existing Drupal sites who were looking for a way off, and a couple of people were just looking for another alternative piece of software that they could use in the future, which is exactly who we're after. So I thought that was great. One really good thing that I think came out of the meeting was that we were invited to present at the Silicon Valley Drupal meetup. And apparently a lot of people down in the Silicon Valley area have expressed the same kind of trepidation about not knowing what to do with their future and needing more options. So they're planning on doing meetups in the future about both Backdrop and Drutopia. And so I thought that would be really great to kind of get involved there and see the perspectives that people bring to those meetings too. So training went well, summit went well, and then we did a session on Sunday, and we changed the format a little bit to try and include voices from some more people of the Backdrop community. We got Jack in there too, giving feedback, and our talk was kind of, it's been the same for a really long time, where we get to a point and we kind of talk about why this point is important to us. It was really great, Jack, to hear your perspective on why that point was important to you in different ways than we thought of before. So I thought your commentary there led a great, different voice, alternative perspective that made the talk a lot better. So thought it was fantastic. Let's see, Wes did a really great job of trying to figure out how to live stream and record everything we did. So if you missed the sessions or the summit or the training and want to see them online, somehow that all got rigged into our YouTube channel. So I'm not sure about the quality of any given part of it, but I think we did kind of figure out by the end of the day. I think, Jeff, you were watching along for some of it. So yeah, it would be great to at least have that as a resource for people in the future who really wanted to see the Calabox session or the Pantheon session or whatever it was, to be able to find that online and watch it later. So thanks, Wes, for figuring that out. It doesn't look like you're here anymore, but thank you anyway. Anything else you guys want to add? There are a lot of backdroppers at BADCamp, which was also really great to get to see. Tom made it out, and yeah.
The Pantheon, was it Matt? That's
yeah.
when inspired me to do the configuration export. I was like, oh my God, he's got it. So, so it was great to see that.
Good.
Yeah, two things I wanted to add. One was it was really great to go to the session that y'all did, Jen and Nate, like the presentation. And I think I have a bunch of ideas. I think what Mike was talking about too, like thinking of new spins on the presentation or different alternatives, like new ones that we can bring both to Drupal events and other events. So excited to find space to talk about that. Also a piece of kind of news that I want to follow up on. Jen mentioned Drutopia a while ago, which I don't know, I know folks have discussed a little bit, but which is planned as basically a Drupal 8 hosted distribution specifically geared towards the grassroots. That's kind of like a nutshell. I talked to Clayton Dewey and other folks who are really involved in that project, and now have them wondering if they should really look at Backdrop instead of Drupal 8 to base this on, or see where the intersections are, see where the collaboration should be, things like that. So, I thought that was exciting because they're working towards similar goals and for similar audiences. So to be working at cross purposes, it doesn't seem. It seems like maybe there's a chance for some more symbiosis and at least supporting each other, if not directly collaborating more. So I have it on my list to follow up with the folks I know in the Drutopia community about that stuff. And I don't know if any other folks want to be plugged into that, or I'll definitely report back if anything does happen. But
yeah, I'd love to hear what happens with that. I also had a really great positive conversation with some of the folks at Drutopia before they announced Drutopia existed. And I remember thinking it was funny they didn't mention it, but then maybe they wanted to figure out their message before they said it. But the general feeling I got was that they were really open to collaborating and talking about like sharing frustrations and figuring out common solutions and stuff too. So I think even if we don't end up like writing the same code, the fact that we are after the same audience and solving the same goals and that they're so receptive to working together, I think is really a good sign.
Totally. Cool.
Tom, I'm not sure if you're actually there, but I just want to say, number one, thank you for all your great work on the documentation. You weren't here earlier when we talked about that, but also thank you for coming to Bad Camp. I really liked on, was it Saturday night, we did a special dinner where we tried to get all the people who were at Bad Camp and Related and Backdrop kind of together in the same place to kind of go and say hi. We picked up a couple of stragglers along the way, as is common at Drupal camps. But we had a really great Ethiopian dinner at a fantastic restaurant. So yeah, it was great that Tom, you made it all the way here from far away. I know a lot of you are in Australia and other parts of the world. But those of us that were able to get together, I thought it was fantastic to meet everyone face to face for once. Nate, do you want to add anything about Bad Camp? You were there too.
No, I think you got it all covered. The session recording is really nice. I was checking it out. And all of the recordings here are on a YouTube channel. The Bad Camp channel has all of the sessions, and that's not directly on our channel, but it's in our featured presentations playlist in the backdropcms.org
Great.
YouTube channel.
Great. So speaking of events, this week, right now, Drupal South is happening, and Gregory's giving a presentation in 3 hours-ish. So anyone who's interested in attending that should get on a plane in a time machine as fast as possible. But yeah, I'm really interested to see it. So hopefully they'll do a video recording and we can watch later, if not real time.
Vladimir, which is one of the organizers of the show, for another unrelated reason, I asked for statistics as to how many people are attending and how many people are actually attending my session. And the event is sold out. It's 230 people, and 90 of them are coming to my presentation, which is exciting and intimidating at the same time. But it means that if my calculations are right, it's like 30 or 40% of the people are interested. So it's good.
That's great. All right, let's see. Do we have anything we should talk about this week that we haven't? I know we're kind of out of time here, but anything really important that isn't on the agenda that we should bring up and discuss as a group? No. Okay. Is there anything in particular we desperately need to talk about next week? No? Okay. Well, then we'll just...
One quick thing that I'm also trying to follow up on this week is the CiviCRM compatibility with Backdrop.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else on this call is working on that, but I know we need it soon. So, so I'm going to start poking around in the Civi community and see where things are at and how to like shepherd that along.
Okay. Let's see. As far as I know, I think I have commit access to the Backdrop Civi contrib group. If anyone else wants access or needs access in order to make progress, I'm happy to add you as co-maintainers. I don't know if the person who's working on it now is like officially a co-maintainer or not, but I know if you can figure out what kind of work they're doing, that would be great. They also the amount of work I did on it was just to make sure that it was connected okay, but I didn't have any like actual use cases to see if anything was missing in terms of what information was getting pulled and displayed where. So I think just if you could start making heavy use of that issue queue, that might help. And I don't know if you've already been doing that because I haven't looked at it recently, but that might help just be like, these are the areas that like, if your project needs it, this is what's not working for you. If we can get those knocked out so you can start using it, that would be great. Obviously it'll benefit everyone if we can get them fixed. But yeah, especially if you can find someone who wants to be a co-maintainer, that would be awesome.
Cool. Awesome, will do.
Okay, one
Jen,
more
you were
thing.
cutting out.
You're not usually here in person, so earlier in this meeting we were talking about how amazing the documentation looks, and I know that you put in a ton of time and work on getting all of that information in there. I just wanted to say thank you again for that. I cannot wait until that gets out. So, hooray! So close. Less than a week away, maybe, and then forum time, which is the really exciting part. All right, so I guess we'll see everyone in the issue queue. After this meeting, we usually do a little sprint. We all get together and talk about what is working in the Gitter channel or in the issue queue. So I'm sure we'll see you guys there.
All right, thank you. Bye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye,
watching.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Take care.